Since the dawn of our existence, humans have always had an almost uncontrollable urge to explore. We never stay in one place for long. From the first migrations on foot across continents to the ships that crossed oceans, from airplanes that shortened distances to spacecraft defying gravity, we are driven by curiosity and a constant search for new horizons. And in the last 100 years, we've pushed past incredible limits. We reached the South Pole, dove into the depths of the ocean, and set foot on the moon. But there's still a grand journey ahead of us, the mission to leave Earth and travel to Mars. This ambition is so deeply rooted in our culture that it's no coincidence shows like Star Trek became a massive success. Back in the 1960s, the series introduced the world to a spacecraft and its courageous crew, exploring the unknown with the iconic phrase, "To go where no man has gone before." And although we haven't yet reached that interstellar level, NASA already has a plan in motion to send the first humans to the surface of Mars and bring them back safely. As we've already seen here on the channel, it's a colossal challenge, but not impossible. Let's understand how it's going to happen. It all starts with a strategic step, establishing a permanent and advanced presence on the moon. It might seem counterintuitive, but going from the moon to Mars is far more viable than launching directly from Earth. The reason lies in physics. Earth has strong gravity and a dense atmosphere, which makes launches more difficult and imposes strict limits on how much weight we can send into space. The moon, on the other hand, has weak gravity and almost no atmosphere, turning it into a much more efficient launching point. That's exactly the focus of NASA's Artemis program. Unlike the Apollo missions that planted a flag and returned home, the goal now is much more ambitious. Artemis missions 4 through 10 won't be limited to landings. They'll become a true school of survival and lunar colonization. We'll need to learn how to use local resources, extract water, produce oxygen, and take advantage of lunar metals and rocks to build functional infrastructure. At the same time, NASA will construct the Gateway space station, which will orbit the moon and act as an advanced outpost in deep space. Meanwhile, development on Mars continues. Robots will keep exploring the planet's surface, and the coming years promise even bolder innovations. Flying drones like the pioneering Ingenuity have opened a new frontier for Martian exploration. For the first time, we've managed to fly in Mars's thin atmosphere, a technical feat that will allow us to map vast areas, collect samples, and study regions that were previously out of reach. Additionally, NASA plans to place an autonomous station in Martian orbit, serving as a support hub for future human missions, both on arrival and for the journey back. One crucial aspect of these future missions is the return of samples. One-way trips are a thing of the past. Now, the strategy involves a longer presence with round-trip logistics. All of this is part of the Moon to Mars project, building a solid base on the moon, mastering the art of surviving in extreme environments, and at the same time, preparing the way for the first humans on Mars. But how exactly does NASA plan to send humans to Mars? The answer involves a mix of new technologies and old ideas that are finally becoming reality. One of the main bets is nuclear thermal propulsion, a type of space engine that, instead of burning chemical fuel like traditional rockets, heats hydrogen using a nuclear reactor and expels the gas with force to generate thrust. It might sound like science fiction, but this is a technology that has been studied for decades and is now closer to becoming a reality than ever before. This kind of propulsion is essential to reduce travel time to Mars. With conventional rockets, the journey takes about 6 to 9 months, a long trip that poses significant risks to astronauts' health due to prolonged exposure to cosmic radiation and microgravity. With nuclear propulsion, NASA hopes to shorten that time to something between 3 and 4 months. That would make a huge difference in terms of safety, efficiency, and the feasibility of round-trip missions. In addition, another key part of the mission is modular architecture. Unlike what we see in science fiction films, where massive monolithic ships travel to Mars, the real plan is to divide the mission into several parts, sending components separately and assembling everything in space or on Martian soil. This means, for example, that the propulsion module can be sent first, followed by habitation modules, supplies, laboratories, and finally the crew. It's a more flexible and scalable way to build the mission, and the planning doesn't stop there. One of NASA's most promising concepts is the use of local resources, especially on Mars. This is known as ISRU, or In Situ Resource Utilization. The idea is simple. Instead of bringing everything from Earth, astronauts will learn to extract and use what's available on Mars, such as turning CO2 from the atmosphere into oxygen or fuel, and even melting underground ice to obtain drinking water. This not only reduces the weight and cost of missions, but also simulates a future of sustainable colonization. This type of strategy is already being tested on a small scale. The MOXIE instrument aboard the Perseverance rover successfully produced oxygen from Martian CO2, a promising demonstration of what could be done on a larger scale in the future. Imagine, for example, an industrial plant operating on Mars days before the astronauts arrive, generating oxygen and fuel for when they land. That's no longer a distant dream. It's on the horizon. And here's where another crucial point comes in: synchronizing with Mars' orbit. Since the planets are constantly moving, it's not possible to go from Earth to Mars at just any time. Launch windows open only every 26 months, when the two planets are closest to each other. That requires a strict timeline and absolute coordination across all stages of the mission. If something goes off schedule, it could mean waiting another 2 years to try again. Another major challenge is keeping astronauts alive and healthy throughout the entire mission. We're talking about a round-trip journey that could take around 2 years, much longer than any other crewed mission ever attempted. During this time, astronauts will be isolated, exposed to radiation, with limited access to supplies and medical help. To address this, NASA is developing advanced life support systems, including pressurized habitats, radiation shields, and food-growing technologies for space. Yes, food. Something that seems simple but becomes a huge challenge when you're millions of kilometers away from Earth. Instead of relying solely on pre-packaged meals from Earth, NASA wants astronauts to grow part of their own food during the mission. Space greenhouses with hydroponic systems, which use water enriched with nutrients instead of soil, are being tested to ensure crops like lettuce, potatoes, and wheat can grow in controlled environments. This not only helps with nutrition, but also has a positive psychological impact. Caring for living plants in the emptiness of space can be comforting. Mental health, by the way, is a top priority in this kind of mission. The confinement in a tight environment, the isolation from Earth, and the lack of real-time communication, all of that can affect the crew's psychological well-being. That's why, in addition to rigorous training, astronauts will have access to onboard artificial intelligence capable of offering emotional support, managing conflicts, and even serving as a personal assistant. It's like a virtual co-pilot to help during the most critical moments. And of course, the entire mission needs to be self-sufficient. There's no way to rely on quick rescues or emergency shipments, like we do with the International Space Station. If something goes wrong on Mars, the astronauts themselves will have to solve it. That's why NASA is investing in 3D printers to produce tools and parts on demand, as well as in automated diagnostic and repair systems. The goal is to create an autonomous ecosystem where everything needed to survive, work, and return is available, even 225 million kilometers away from home. An interesting detail is that each Mars mission doesn't involve just one ship. The plan includes a coordinated fleet. Cargo ships go first, carrying equipment, supplies, and fuel. Then, during the next launch window, the crewed spacecraft follows. This ensures that when the astronauts land, there's already a minimal setup waiting for them: inflatable shelters, power units, communication systems, and most importantly, fuel for the return journey. Speaking of fuel, it could also be produced on Martian soil. Methane, for example, can be synthesized from CO2 and hydrogen using a process called the Sabatier reaction. This would allow the return rocket to be refueled with what was produced directly on Mars, lowering the total mission weight and making future trips increasingly viable. With all these elements combined, nuclear propulsion, local resource use, modular architecture, advanced life support, and autonomous fuel production, NASA is slowly putting together the puzzle that will enable a human mission to Mars. But one final piece is still missing: the spacecraft that will carry humans there. And that's where collaboration with private companies, especially SpaceX, comes in. The Starship, designed by Elon Musk and his team, is currently the most promising vehicle for this mission. It was developed with the explicit goal of transporting humans and cargo on interplanetary flights. Unlike traditional rockets, the Starship is fully reusable and has a massive cargo capacity, making it perfect for transporting the many modules and supplies needed to colonize Mars. And most impressive of all, it can be refueled in orbit. allowing it to carry enough fuel for long-duration trips, like a round trip to the Red Planet. NASA has already signed agreements with SpaceX to test the Starship as a lunar lander for the Artemis program. If the tests succeed, this same spacecraft could be adapted for Mars missions, serving as the vehicle that travels between Mars' orbit and its surface. But more than technology, this mission will require a shift in how we view space. Going to Mars won't be like the Apollo missions, where astronauts spent a few days on the moon and returned home. On Mars, the crew will have to stay for more than a year until a new window opens for the journey back to Earth. That means living on the Red Planet long enough to study the environment, run experiments, adapt to extreme conditions, and, at the same time, keep team morale high. That extended stay also opens the door to another goal: truly learning how to live on another world. Not just visit, but inhabit. Even if temporarily, it will be proof that humanity can become multiplanetary, a civilization capable of surviving beyond Earth. And that perspective changes everything. After all, if we can live on Mars, even for a limited time, it could be a rehearsal for something even bigger in the future. Exploring moons like Titan, or even missions to planets outside the solar system. It's a risky bet, with enormous costs, massive technical challenges, and significant human risks. But history shows that this is how we evolve. It was like this with the great sea explorations, with the conquest of the skies, and with the moon landing. Every time we choose to cross into the unknown, we take a leap forward in our own evolution. Today, Mars is the next great leap. But despite all this grand planning, many uncertainties still remain. The Artemis program, which should be the foundation of this journey, faces constant delays. And Starship, while revolutionary, is still in the testing phase, with failures that show just how hard it is to turn theory into practice. Faced with these obstacles, a legitimate question arises. Will we really see humans on Mars before this decade ends? Or are we chasing a goal that, for now, still slips through our fingers? And what about you? What do you think? Are we ready to conquer Mars, or is there still a long road ahead? Leave your opinion in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to follow the next steps in this historic journey. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.